Hi students, let's start with the lab. That is the challenge lab for creating a VPC network for our cafe. So this is one of the case study which we are taken for consideration in the AWS Architect. So under this lab, we have to create a virtual private cloud environment that enables to secure a private resource. So we are trying to create a in under availability zone two subnets. One is a public subnet and one is a private subnet as shown in this particular diagram. So if you see that in the private subnet, we have one EC2 instance, we have internet gateway, we have a NAT gateway, and we have a bastion host. NAT gateways allows private environment to connect with the public environment, or internet gateways provide a connectivity to an internet to these public environments. So what we are trying to actually do here is that through Bastion host, we try to access our private instance, whether it is possible or not. So through SSH, we are trying to establish this connectivity. So if you see about the steps which we are going to do, so first we have to create this particular availability zone, that is our private cloud with an IP address series of 10.0.0.0/16. Then under that we create the two subnets. One is a public subnet, one is a private subnet. For the public subnet, IP is 10.0.0/24, and for the private subnet, it is 10.0.0.1.0/24. And under these particular subnets, we have to create the instances for the Bastion host. We have to attach a NAT gateway to the public subnets, and we have to add an internet gateway. So this is what a basic about which we are going to perform in this particular lab. So let's start with the lab. So already I have started the lab. So whenever I clear the AWS, an environment for the lab will be get open so that we can start working over this particular lab. So let's start with the challenge lab. So under that, the first step, as we have seen that we have to create an public subnet. So if we go to create a public subnet, we have to go to an the Amazon VPC console. So if you go here, so if you see that already I have visited, so you can see the VPC console. So I will click on the VPC console. Let's allow him to open. So under VPC console, you can click on the your VPCs, where you can see that a lab VPC environment is already created for us. So if you click on the lab VPC environment, you can see the what is the current status. There is no subnets or added here. There is no the internet gateway or any kind of, we can say, the Bastion host or the NAT gateway. Nothing has been added here. So we have to start under this particular lab VPC. Like we go on adding or creating a subnets, and let's first go for creation of an public subnets. So click on a subnet. Let's select a create subnet. Select our lab under which we are going to create this subnet, that is our lab VPC. So this lab VPC will have a subnet name as public subnet. So I will public subnet. VPC that is already been selected. Then the preferences where we can able to select and the region where this lab VPC exists, that is the same region, that is suppose an US zone A we are going to select. Then we are going to select like an our first IP address for the lab VPC, sorry, for the public subnet under the lab VPC. So we can, so all the things are correct. Public subnet is the name we are going to give it to. It is under the lab VPC. It is created a zone, that is the first one, that is US East 1A, and the IP addresses. So we can click on the create subnet now. Yeah, the subnet is get created now. So what we have to do is allow this subnet to access the internet. For that purpose, we have to add an internet gateway to this particular subnet. So first we check it at whether it is created properly or not. So if you see that yes, subnet is created prayerfully, IPv4 address that is 10.0.0.4.24 we have added to it. So let me go for the internet gateway. So we have to create an internet gateway and attach it to this particular lab VPC. So I will say like create a new internet gateway, something like an my lab IG. I will give the name like that, internet gateway, and we have to attach it to an lab VPC. So first we create an internet gateway with this name. Okay, it is attached to VPC, so we have to perform the action like attach it to an which VPC. So we have to select our lab VPC to which we are going to attach this particular internet gateway. So if you go on now under the internet gateway, or if you go to an lab VPC, your VPC, you can check under this VPC that internet gateway is been added. But currently this internet gateway we need to an associate with this public subnet. So we'll go to an the internet gateways. So it's been created. Let's go to an your VPC. Then let go to an VPC in a bigger. So let's see the CIDR subnets have been added. Let's go to the subnets. Yeah, under the public subnet, we have see the reservation routing table. So let me go to a routing table. Let me edit a routing table and edit route table. So we have to add one particular. Yeah. So let we have to edit our routes so that we can able to add our accessibility to this our public gateway. So what we have to do, we have to go to an routing table. In the routing table, we have to select an routing table which is associated with our VPC, that is lab VPC. Under the routes, we have to create and edit routes, and we have to add a route that says like an 000, that is to all, and to an internet gateway. So I will just select internet gateway and we'll select our just recently we have created internet gateway MyLab IG, and we try to save these particular changes. So if you go back now to your VPC, it's updated successfully. So I will just check the association also. Yeah, public subnet, explicit edit subnet association. I will just check. We have to create an association with the public subnets. So let me go first with the VPC, whether it has been correctly created or not. Let's go VPC. If you click on your VPC now and check the resource map, so you can see now the lab internet gateway is associated with our routing table, which is having now two routes. One is by default, that is 10 dot series, and another is 000, and that is associated with the public subnet. So this is what the environment which we have created currently by using this particular. So now we have completed our first task. Let we can go for the second task. So first task of creating an public subnets and editing or adding the internet gateway, associating the VPC with that route, that we are done. So let we go for the second task, that is creating a bastion host and creating a security group by which we can attach this bastion host to our public subnets and then test whether it is working properly or not. So for that we try to create an instance for the bastion host in the public subnet of our availability zone, and then we go for the testing of this particular bastion host. Yeah, so for that, for creation of an instance, let me go for an EC2. So let I am creating an EC2. So I try to open EC2. I will just say I will create a separate tab so that I can visualize both the stuff as I required. The internet is a bit slow. Just type here itself EC2. Yeah, so I will try to open this EC2 in new tab. Yeah, it's allowed to open. Yeah, let me go to the instances under this EC2. So we have to create an instance for the our public and associated our public subnets. So let me start with creation of an Bastion host with a, let's say, launch instance. So we create an public subnet of Bastion host instance. So name is, let's say, as Bastion host. Then we select an Amazon Linux AWS, that is the same one, that is then the Linux H2, as they had told as Linux 2 AMI, that we are going to select, no change over here. The instance is T2 micro, there is no change. Then a key pair we are going to select an WOKey, that is the RSA key pair we are going to attach to this particular instance, that is the WOKey we are going to add. Then network settings we have to do edit, and we have to select a subnet as our lab VPC. Under the lab VPC, we are going to create an instance in the public subnet. Then we have to create a security group. There is an advanced network configuration before that. Yeah, auto assign the public IP, so that we have to enable the auto assign public IP, so that whenever the instance stop or terminate and newly get created, it should automatically assign the public IPs to it. Then we have to create a security group. So security group, that is known as, let's say, group name something we can give like an Bastion host SG security group. So description is like, we can say to allow SSH for Bastion host instance. Bastion host instance. So where SSH is allowed through TCP for the port range, that is 22, that is by default, there is no change, so it has been selected properly. Under this source type, you have to select like an, it is the IP address, that is my IP we are going to say. So you can observe here the IP address. It is most of the time it's keep on changing this particular IP address. So many of the time it is better to go for other than my IP, or you can go for selection of an the custom one, or we can say anywhere. That is a better option, so that the connectivity will be possible. I will show you in the next that whenever we select a my IP, the connectivity issues are there. So let me see creating a my IP address, that is a your IP address. So then we can storage is no change over here, and we can say as yes, it's all are proper. So it's created lab VPC, public subnet, enable security group, and everything is there. So I will say as launch instance. Yeah, so we can have and view all instances which are created. So you can see our Bastion host instance is been in a currently pending state. Let allow it to be in an working state. So it is currently in pending. You can go on refreshing it to check it out whether it is in running state. So it has been initialized now. It is still pending. It is in running state now. So you can click over here and you can check that the instance is got created for our Bastion host with the security we can say like an 22 SSH is been allowed for that particular one. So even you can give the name to this particular security group here. So I will try to have inbound rule is created, so it has been there. So why it is not allowed? Okay, Bastion host HG security group. So after creation of an instance, the next step, we have also allocating the elastic IP address. So if you have seen that we have clicked that assign the elastic IP address to the bastion host, that we have already clicked. So then we have to test the connections for the bastion host. For that we require an putty software for the Windows. So you can see here that how we can, there is a given the link by which you can able to download the putty software. So you can download and install the putty whenever you require. So you can get for the Windows users, you can download from the putty software. Once you download it, you have to download the keys, that is SSH keys, to have a connectivity for the lab users. And it's we have to download by using this PPK keys. We have to download for connectivity purpose. So let go to the lab and try to perform this particular activity. So let's start. We will go to an putty, check whether it is working. So I just enable the putty and ask it to run as administrator. Then I have gone to an the lab file. So I just go to an the lab files where we can see the details and show there the lab files you can see. So the PPK file we require. So click on download PPK file and ask it save it this PPK file. So I created on the desktop a folder called challenge lab files, and under that I have saved this PPK file which is I will use for putty connectivity purpose. So I will just close now and we'll start with the connectivities. So for that purpose, we require to have an public IPv4 DNS. So I will just copy this public IPv4 DNS and I will now try to connect it with the putty. Yeah, before that, we have to check whether the elastic IP has been allocated. So let's go to an elastic IPs. Let allocate an elastic IP to IPv4 address to network border group. I will just check. Yeah. No, I have to check an association of an elastic IP. We have to create this elastic IP. So I will just say allocate the elastic IP. So it has been there now. So we have to associate this elastic IP with our bastion host instance. So I will just check. Yeah, bastion host, that is the instance which is running. So you can, I will just show you again. So it is a bastion host instance and allow elastic IP to be reassociated. Private IP address, no, currently we are doing in a public IP address, so we will not go for selection of a private. So let's have a private IP address, then we try to associate it with this particular instance. So elastic IP has been associated with our instances now. So if we go here, so it has been public IP, that is to check as instance has been started. So we can select now this particular. So you can see here the elastic public IP has been allocated to it. So we can select an public DNS and we can use the putty for connectivity purpose. So we will now copy the elastic IP address, that is a public IP which is available over here. So we will copy the elastic IP address and we will and put it over here, or even the DNS if you copy, that is also okay. So we can put the elastic IP address over here. So I will just show that I am copying this elastic IP address. Then we have to go to an SSH under this connections tab, then SSH, then authentication, then credentials. Over here you have to browse and select the downloaded. So I will just go to the desktop, the challenge lab, and this is downloaded key. I will to associate with it, and I will ask to say as open. So let me check whether the putty is able to establish the connectivity. Yeah, so yes, we are going to say like an accept the instance. So login as says EC2 user that is being used by default. So we'll say like an EC2 uh, EC2 hyphen user, EC2 hyphen user, that will be used for our connectivity. So if you check here, authenticating, yes, you can get that successful connectivity with this particular EC2. So you can now have a established SSH connection. So your EC2 instance, so you can check now here that our bastion host connectivity is successful. So you can test it, you can check like an ls, and you can able to see the find if any contents available over here. Or you can have something like df-h, so that whatever allocations been there, that has been, you can able to verify that connectivity is proper and it's working properly. So we have this putty connection established successfully. So they have instructed. So if you go to an the challenge lab, now we have able to successfully test our connection. There it is. Yeah. So creating a subnet. So that is the task of testing the putty has been done. So we can have a bastion host connectivity through putty for that public instance which are running. Let me go for creation of a private subnet now, and then we have to test from the bastion host this putty connectivity as a proper. So I had left this bastion host as it is, so I am not terminating. So this connection I kept open. I will just show that this putty connection I am kept open, so I am not closing this particular putty connections for current instance. So let go for creation of an private subnet now. So let go to a lab window. So we have to create now another instance. Oh, sorry, subnets. So for creation of subnet, we have to again go to the VPC. Under the lab VPC, we have to create the subnet. So let now go for creation of an the private subnet. So let go to the VPC. I kept it open, so I will just remove the searching. So I will go to the subnets. Now we have to create over here one private subnet. So I will say like create subnet and select our lab VPC and give the name to the subnet as lab private subnet. Availability zone the same which we have selected for the public subnet. We have to select the same zone. The IP address we have to do as 10.0.1.0/24 we have to select. That is what given under the creation. So this is what the private subnet we are going to create. So let's see as create subnet. So private subnet is successfully created under the lab VPC. You can check here, go to your VPC, and if you have the resource view, so you can see that private and public subnet both are created. So currently with an internet gateway, the public subnet is created. We have to connect and we have to create one, we can say the NAT gateway to which we are going to associate this private subnet, so that we can have a public to private connectivity will be get established for this. So now we create a NAT gateway. So what's the use of this NAT gateway? NAT gateway allows an private subnet to establish the connectivity with the public subnet. So NATing, if you something know about it. So NAT gateway. So I will just give the name to a NAT gateway as they have asked to give. So the NAT gateway name, I will just copy paste. So that is NAT gateway. Then I select our subnet. So it is in public subnet we have to create, as they are given in public subnet. We work in a public and it required an elastic IP. So I will allocate an elastic IP to it and ask to create a NAT gateway. Yeah. So once the LAN gateway is created successfully, you can verify in your VPC that resource map that you can see now here. NAT gateway is created, that is associated with the public private, and this is an association of NAT gateway with the security rule has to be configured, so that it will be get associated with the public and private subnet, so that we have to perform for an establishing the connectivity. So NAT gateway. So if you check under the lab VPC that let's allow that under the resource map, the NAT the lab NAT gateway is created. Now we have to associate this NAT gateway to establish a connectivity with the private and public subnet. So for that, I have to create an routing table. So I will ask to create a routing table. The name which they have given us, a name which we have to create, that is private route table. So we have to create a private route table under the lab VPC. So that is a private route table we have to create. So you can check now under the route table that the uh, two lab two tables are there. One is a private which we currently, and one another which we have created, that is known as public route table. So I will just change the name, that is public route table. So I will save the name. So under the private route table, now we have to create an association for our NAT gateway. So we go to the routes, we'll say edit routes, and we add the route for the entry say as 00, that is, and we associate and gateway. So that is NAT gateway. So you can check now the lab NAT gateway is visible, and we say as save changes. So if you check now to your VPC and see a resource map under the NAT gateway, if you see that private route table is been associated with this particular VPC. So that is what the way by which we can establish the connectivity with this with the private route table. So now we have to create an instance by which we can access or test this connectivity of the Bastionos with the private route table. Before proceeding ahead, we will go to an root table and verify the association has been proper. So let me go to the private table and say subnet association. We'll go to an edit subnet association, and for the private, it is a private subnet. Save association we will do, and for the public, we can say association. We will go to an edit subnet association, and I will select the public. See to it that properly the private and public get selected. You do not confuse, or we can say the change it. So it is a public, it is a public subnet, private, it is a private subnet. So if you go now to your VPC and see the resource map and check that now the connection for the lab gateway for the private is established, and for the internet gateway, that is for the public, is established. So this is what we can say. We are clearly able to establish the association of an gateways with an respective resource of the network connection, that is the lab NAT gateway or the internet gateway. Internet gateway association with the public route table, whereas lab NAT gateway association is with the private route table. So we have done our task. Let me go here what next they have asked to do. So if you go here, the task of creation of a NAT gateway, creation of an root table, that has been done. We have done the association with the private subnet, that we have done. So then we have to create an instance, EC2 instance in the private subnet, and we test the connectivity whether it has been possible. So here a second pair says OKey2 we have to create for it, and we have to download for these particular instances. So let we go for the second task of creating an EC2 instance for our private subnet. So we will now try to create an instance. So let's go to our lab window. So I will go to the lab window, go to an EC2 instance. So already we have an instance Bastionos which is running in an public. So if you can check here, so it is in public subnet. So we have to create it now in the private subnet. So I will just say as launch and another instance. The name, they have preferred us to give a name to the instance, say as an private instance. I will give the name private instance. No change again over the AMI and this T2 macro, that will be same. Here create a new pair we have to select. So it is we can't able to use the Woki. We will say that create a new key pair and give the name as Woki2. We'll give the name as Woki2. So RSA, that is for PPK we require for the putty. So private key format PPK, that is for use for the putty rather than upon SSH. So I will say as create a key pair and associate this OKey to this particular instance. Go to the edit. Now select our lab VPC. Under the private we have to create. Then no need to assign a public IP as we are doing it in private. So no public IP will be there. So again, there will be an traffic. So that is uh, security group name that we can give. So we can have an SSH to be enabled. So that is for private SG. So we can say like a private SG. So SSH, that is 22, that is connected from the Bastion host. So we can say like an allow traffic SH2, and we will allow it from an custom say as. So I will just say as anywhere. So we have to add it. So let's so this is a private instance security group, ANC instance security group, which allow the Bastion host to connect private instance. So allow the Bastion host to connect a private instance. So we will go to an custom, and I will try to select an security group SG. So you can see here Bastion host SG, which we have created another security group that we are going to select over here, and we are going to say like an after this launch an instance. So let allow to launch the instance. So it's successful. So you can go on view all instances. You can see now here a private instance has been created and one a Bastion host instance is created. So allow the private instance to go in a running mode. So it is just keep on refreshing. So you can check that it will be go on in a running mode.
Ma'am,
So
I'm
after
not getting
creation of an instance, I
material
forget to tell
for
one thing
large
that
integer
whenever the
or
instance get
efficiency
created with the
integer
OKey2, they are going to ask to save
multiplication
this
for
OKey2
second
key.
unit,
So don't
divide
forget
and
to
conquer.
save this OKey2 key. So as I clicked over here and
In
I
common
saved in the same
group.
folder this OKey2 keys, which you have to use later for an
Surname,
connectivity
ma'am.
with the private
Am I
instance from
audible?
the Bastion host. So you know
Yes,
that
you are audible.
first lab user we are used for
Can you be
connectivity
a
with the
little
Bastion
louder?
host instance, and the
Now am I
second key we
audible?
used to connect
Yeah,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Bastion host to
Huh.
an
So
private
just
instance.
can
So
you
that is
give
the
me the
way
list
by
of
which
the
the two
topics you're
keys we
not
are going to
finding it
use for
for
an
men so that
connectivity with
whatever
our
I am
instance. So
referring to,
don't
either I'll
forget
give
to
you the
save
link
this
or the
particular
reference book
key also.
materials
So
directly
let me go
via
further,
email.
like how we can able to
Actually, most
extend the connectivity
90% material
of
I
this
am
private
getting in
instance
core
to
one.
an
That is our
Bastion
first
host. So for
priority.
that,
Only
let me go
in
to
second
an
unit
the
that
challenge lab page.
substitution method or
So if you
large
observe
integer
here in the
multiplication
challenge lab page,
problems.
So
you
see
can
the
see here now
So
substitution
once you
method
have
you would
created
get in
downloaded
Sridhar also,
the
and the
instance.
first
Now
reference book
for the
that is
Windows
there
user,
in
we have to
the
combine both the keys. So
syllabus.
what we have to do, we have to use
yeah,
one
In
software
that
that is
also
known as
substitution
Paganet,
examples are given.
and this is the download page is
So
available.
which
You
known
can
one?
as
download that Paganet
the
software. So you
name
have to
is
launch that Paganet.
algorithms
So
of
I'm just
computation,
launching.
something
I
like
have
that.
already installed, so I will
Thomas
just
Corman,
launch and say
Introduction to
as
No,
Algorithms.
Thomas
sorry.
Corman
I
and
will just
Sahani are
ask
the two
to
books that you're referring. If you're not
uh,
finding it in Corman, you can
run
use
as administrator.
Sridhar.
So
Sridhar, Design and
I'll give you a
Analysis of
second. Yes,
Algorithms.
yes, you'll get it in that.
Uh,
The sums are also
mm,
there. The
Paganet,
solving
and
technique is also
let's
given.
allow him to give me as a run as
okay, okay.
administrator.
Ma'am, do you have
Yes.
soft copy of that book?
Uh, so
So
soft
once it
copy
is
I don't
running, you
have.
can
We had
see
it
in
in the
the
library last
taskbar
time.
this
So I
icon
had
of
written that
Paganet
in my book. If you want, I'll
is running. So I
share
will
that
just
with you
show just a
because
minute.
the link of the PDF is not available online.
Okay, okay, okay. And
Click the picture
in
and send. Na? Yes, yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
So I'm just
Okay.
going to and I
Okay,
have
ma'am.
There
downloaded
is
and installed the Paganet. So I have gone to and
that is
Paganet
Horvitz. You can
and
get it in that also.
assets
Horowitz,
open and run as administrator. So once we
fundamentals
click
of
on the run
computer
as administrator,
networks.
you can
In
see in
that
the
book
Yeah,
taskbar
only.
the
I
Paganet
have the
icon.
books
Double
soft
click on
copy
the
also.
icon and now we
Only
have to
these
add the
two
key.
three
So
problems
first we
that
have
I
to
was
add
not getting
the
in
Woki2
Foreman.
key.
So I search it
So I
on
will
net,
just say that add
that
a
large
Woki2
integers
key
of
to this particular
multiplications of
Paganet. So you can see
Karat-Subas
now the
algorithm,
RSA2048 Woki2
and
key
one
is
more
been
was there
added over this
for
particular
decimal,
Paganet.
and one
Yeah,
was
yeah.
for
So then
binary.
we can
Binary.
So I got
close
it on net.
and
So I just wanted to confirm that is it okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
add the
But still, from
second
my side, I'll send
key
you the
also
link for my
to this
notebooks. I'll
particular
mail you directly.
Paganet.
Questions are there for
So
2 marks
now we
also there.
will add
Means
the another key that
recurrence
is been
or
the lab user
master
word key. I will
method,
say add
substitution
it to
method,
this
then time
particular one.
complexity for a pseudocode
We'll say
for a
as
given pseudocode.
close.
So it
Hmm.
will be better if we can
This
have a
has been both are added.
larger question
So
for
Putty, I
5 marks
have
or more than
network
five
calls and
marks.
about.
That is a simple
Okay,
expectation.
so what I will do, I
Okay, sir,
will
I'll try. Whenever I'll
reopen.
set the paper, I'll
I
see to
will
it
check whether
how
it
many
is
questions can be given
working
for 2 to
properly or
3
not
marks.
now.
And
And
rest of it.
it really becomes difficult when we assess the
If
papers
it is
also.
not, we can
So to
again go
remember
for
these many questions
a
and to
putty session. So I
give
will
the
just
answers
try to open a putty
accordingly. So
again.
if it is 5 or more than 5, we can judge
We have the
properly.
Sir,
host
then
IP
there's
address
only
of the
one thing
Bashan
to merge
host.
these questions
So
and make it a 7 marks question if
okay,
yes,
so
2 3
Bashan
marks
host
find
IP
it
that
address.
difficult.
will
I
be
will
also fine.
just go to the Bashan host.
Okay,
Okay.
fine, sir. We'll
Thank you,
keep
ma'am.
that
I will
in
get
mind.
an
Thank you.
public
Anyone
IP
else
for the
from
Bashan
second year,
host.
that is fourth semester,
Okay, I will just
want to
copy it
ask
here. Go to
anything?
an SSH
PLP or ML1
Sir,
authentication
system
I want to
fundamentals.
ask
credentials. I
something.
will select the same older
Yes.
one, lab
Sir,
user, that is a
regarding
private key. I
ML1,
will
yes.
ask to open.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, my.
Yes,
Good
both are
morning.
running, so
Last year,
it should go
yeah,
properly. I
last year
feel.
we had a discussion, and as
Just
per
allow
you,
it to
you
connect.
said all the resources which have to be followed for ML1. I am following those. Sudeshna Sarkar, ma'am, NPTEL courses and course I'm doing, and all the textbooks I'm following.
Yes.
There is no doubt actually, but the concern is like
Something
we
goes
are
wrong, so
having
I will
so
just
much weightage for numericals in
refresh the
ML1.
Yeah, we
instances.
have
I will
to.
go to the
That's
Passion
my
We
host
cannot
concern.
again.
escape this. We have to, sir. ML, we have to. We cannot escape, otherwise, we are not doing justice.
Copy.
We
I
have
must
to do
copied
Okay.
this. I will
numerical
go
and
to
we
the
have to
putty
have
again.
analytical questions. So there has to be questions on overfitting, bias
Host name,
variance. There have to be
host,
questions on how we are
authentication,
doing the
credentials,
optimization of every
browse.
algorithm because this is ML, this is
Use
not
lab
data
user as
mining.
a credential.
So data
Last
mining
Yes,
may we are
yes.
it
just
should work
solving the
properly now.
same. You must have earlier taught this subject as data mining. But when we do ML, we have to focus on how optimization and how learning is taking part. So we have to ask this question.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we
Kriti
will
ma'am,
not do justice.
I too agree
Yeah.
with you. And a
Yes.
simple suggestion to all my
Yeah.
staff members
Sometime
that nobody
showing
should have
connection
a
error.
problem related to the numericals.
Huh.
Only the expectation is that how much will be the
User
weightage
put
and
it
from which
properly.
book it should be asked, which should be referred. That should
Just
be
Sir,
the
check
doubt.
one
the
more thing.
instance.
Since I have got
Okay.
now Atul sir, and
Just
he
take
has also
public IP
written,
address and
for deep learning. So
then
let me,
just copy again.
Yes.
clarify the
Get the
thing
instance
here
is
also.
running
Yes.
So,
properly.
sir, there you'd written that theory weightage was less in deep learning, and theory
So key
weightage
is
should be
working
more
correct.
because in interview these questions are
Set
asked when
putty
students are going for placements. So, sir, if you please
and
again
run
go
as
and refer the
administrator.
question paper, because then I had done a whole analysis after that.
Copy
So there were
this.
question number
Okay.
one, question number two, and I'm not very sure whether four or something. There were questions
Just
on
open.
overfitting. There were questions on regularization. There were questions on 2 3 topics. If Kanchan is there, then Kanchan can also take it up.
Yeah,
So these are the questions
it's got
we
an
ask
connectivity.
in the
Hopefully,
interview, and we
I'm
make
able to debug
sure
and able to see
students
this.
are thoroughly prepared. So we are asking these questions. They are not straightforward that define what is
Oops.
convolutional
Why
neural
it
network.
been
We
confused?
cannot ask these questions. We have to ask them in convolution network how they are doing optimization. What are the methods they are using? So there were questions on ReLU, if you see, there were questions on overfitting. So we have asked these questions, keeping in mind that they are, thoroughly tested and they are preparing themselves also. Because our main focus is
It's
they should
establishing the
crack interviews,
connections, but
and they
later
should
on it's
crack
get time
interviews
out. I
of
don't know.
data
Might be the internet
science related
issues
job,
are there.
Yes.
not computer engineering only. Normally, companies
100%
come
agree.
for this
Agree
only.
with you.
So
So I will
we are
just check that
focusing,
it
but
should,
the thing
yeah.
is, please don't expect, and also you all
Server
also
refused
please
our
don't
keys of
give
it has
these
been
questions
server
like
refused. It should not be
define
like that.
this network, define RNN, or define CNN. No, please, this is not we expect. We are
Just a minute, I will
coming up
re-enable
now.
this.
All
Yeah, so sometimes it get hanged. So you can see now the instance is running properly. I have not done anything. So
Teaching them lambda calculus, how to solve that.
we can have this instance running over here. Now we have to check that how we can able to run the second instance, or how we can able to go for a bastion host.
Can you share me the previous?
Okay, so we can go for an, so after the connectivity you can go for adding,
Will be
let's
available.
get testing the
Unavailable.
SSH connections from the bastion host. So that we have to do. So there is a connect a bastion host by using the host instance using a SSH. So for that, and private IP address is required. So I will just copy paste this. I will put in a putty, and the private IP address we have to type here for the EC2 user for the instance which we have created for the private IP address. So let's add the rate. I will just go to an instance.
One more question.
So I will just go to an
Hello.
private instance which we have
Yes, ma'am.
created, and this is the private IP address. I'll just go to an putty. I will type that private IP address.
Like
Enter.
prolog have a 3
So
practicals,
yes,
HK have a
first time
3
it
to
will
4
going to
practicals.
ask that whether we have
So
to
it
go
is
for
necessary to take
the
all 4
connectivity
practicals.
or whether we will go for doing this. So yes, say
Hello.
as yes.
No, you
So you can
customize it
check
as
now
per you.
that we have connected to a private instance, and if you try to ping for an internet from the private instance, like
At
an
least
Beyond that,
one
you
ping to
can
program per
an
unit
customize.
DNS, so you can able
should
to
be
Yeah.
check that
covered in
it
the laboratory.
successfully
That
get
is
pinged. So
mentioned
that's the
in
way
the
by which we can
PLP
create our
Yeah. You can
the way
customize
by
it
which
accordingly.
we can check that private
procedural
instance
one.
is
At
running. Now
least
we have to
one.
keep this instance as it is and change in some firewall constraint, like how we can able to do. So there is another challenge which they have asked.
At least one.
So
Logic
we are
programming
now
at least one.
completed this
Like this.
particular task
Minimum.
of creation of this NAT gateways and everything. Now we
Thank
have to
you.
do a small change in the security groups so that we can test that it is working properly. So this is a new business challenge at enhancing the security layer of for the private resource that we have to do. So creating a network ACL, what we have to do is that a new network ACL
No.
we are going to
For
create, and
UHV
we are going to
subject, which
enable and
who is the
disable
subject
the
details
ICMP
exactly?
traffic over it. So that
So
is what
that
next
I don't
challenge
have
we are
any.
going to handle over here. Yeah, let's see now what is the second challenge which we have to perform is creating an ACL. But if you check in a existing one, by default that it has been allowed. So it will be say like what are the default rules for the inbound and outbound, that all traffic are allowed. So we have to create one another network lab ACL for the lab VPC, and the default inbound and outbound rules for the common network ACLs deny all traffic. Like that, we have to configure again an ACL and allow all traffic that goes in and out of the private subnet. So we have to do this for us. So create a new ACL. So that is our task. So this challenge we can say like an we have a public subnet, we have associated rule for it, the pinging is allowed in that utility. So we have to create a lab APC for a private subnet and check that whether it is possible to allow or deny this particular traffic for private VPC, private subnet. So let's start about the labs that are creating a new security. Sorry, I will just go here and VPC, and in the VPC we can say the network ACL. You can check that for the lab VPC we have a ACL created, and if you check an inbound outbound rules over here, all the traffics are allowed. It's been there, and outbound traffic that is been allowed been created for this inbound and outbound. So we have to create one additional network ACL rules which will be associated with the private subnet rather than a public subnet. So let's try to create a network ACL, the name the suggested by the challenge lab. So we will have a lab network ACL as lab network ACL. Select a VPC, that is our lab VPC. So we will create an network ACL. You can see now here. So currently this is not been it is associated with the subnet, two subnets. So we will try to first check that, create an inbound rule. So edit. So we'll say like an add a new rule that's given some number as 100 and custom IP. So that is all traffic is allowed. So we will save changes for the inbound. Then similarly we are created the rule for an outbound. So edit outbound rules, add a new rule that is say as 100 and for the all traffic. So I will say as save changes. Then I have to associate this with an private subnet that is created for our, you can check here, it is created for our 10.0.10/24. So I will associate with the private subnet, so it will be hit save. Now we have to test it, that how it is working or not working. So this association we have to test. So what we have to do is that we have to create one test instance for this. So let's check in the AWS challenge. Once we have created these rules, so if you go here and if this has been created, configure the custom ACL to allow the traffic that goes in and out of the private subnet, that we have to do. So that we are doing. So we have done this particular task of creation of an ACL. So that is being configured for the private access. Then we have to test this ACL by creating an one additional test instance. So I will create an test instance and try to perform the activity of pinging for this particular test instance. So for that, let we go to an EC2. Let's start creating an instance. So I will go for creation of a new instance. So I will go to the EC2 again, go to the instances, and I will try to create a new instance. So as they have told the name of the instance, they have given over here the test instance, that should be the name of the instance. Test instance, then it should be the same, no change over the T2 micro, that is key pair. We are going to select that Woki, that is, then edit, go to an the lab VPC. It should be an private subnet, so it is being created as an private instance we have to create. So as you can check in the screen that we have to create a test instance in the public subnet, not in the private subnet. So we will go for creation of this instance in the public subnet. So I will select over here as a public subnet. Auto assign public IP is not required because privately we try to have a connectivity. I will give the uh, security group that is an test instance, allow and test ICMP traffic. So I will just say that I have to just all ICMP4, and I will just select over here from the custom that we are going to create for this particular. Then here we can say like an not custom, that is custom and all traffic like 000 we are going to enable. So that's not 0, so that's, this will be the rule. So I will just like all will be allowed, and I will say it to, and I will just check once whether it is correct. Test instance is correct, disable Woki key, everything is perfect. So it is in lab. So I will say a launch instance. So just allow to launch the instance so that we can test from our, so it's been successful. So go for viewing all the instances. So our test instance is currently, it is in pending. So let's allow it to be in running state. So till that we can check as our putty which is been running whether it is proper or no. So if you go for the putty, you can check that private user, that 10.0.0.200, it has been there for the private user which we are connected. So if we say as a private instance, so if you verify that it has been an connections for the private instance through an version host we had done. So it has been connected to an private instance using an one dot, yeah, here it is. So 1.138, so that has been still private IP. This is the same one, it is given over here. So let me try to have an ping to the new instance from this. So let me check whether the new instance has been properly been launched. Test instance is in running state. So let me go for the test instance and try to ping to this particular private IP address. So it has been currently initializing, allow it to just to initialize the pinging. Just check it is status is 2 by 2 pass has to be there. It has been there, it is just still initializing. So allow it to pass. So if you try to check it again whether it is initialized, it still is an initialization. So we have to check. So I will just check and private IP address I will copy. Just verify that it's running. It should go in, and so that from putty I can able to check that instance is running properly. So it's ping. So I will try to check. Yeah, so we can successfully connect from public source to an private source. This connectivity and connection get established. So from test instance, we try to connect with the private instance. Okay, so the establishment with this connectivity will be proper. So from private instance, we try to have a connectivity with the test public instance which we have created recently. Okay, so let's try to configure. So now what next they are saying here is like, once we are able to do this, and I will just go to a down. We are at ACL. ACL has been created, instance is created, and traffic has been created. So modify ping utility we had done. So what we have to do next is an deny. We have to check that. Yeah, so how deny traffic from the private subnet we have to do. So in the private instance terminal window, so we have to create and rule to say as deny, and it should be above that particular traffic. So we have to modify your custom network ACL to deny all traffic, and for the private IP /32, and we have to check it again whether the pinging is going or pinging is been blocked. So that we have to check over here. So I will just go to an network ACL and I will modify this particular settings now. So we will go for now configuring the rule again. So we will go to an lab window. Let's see now. So I will just go to an VPC and the network ACL. So the lab network ACL should be get selected, which is aligned with the private subnet. Go to the inbound rules, and if you say as edit now, so we have to configure the inbound rules to block the traffic. Uh, so that is, I will say like an add new rule. So it should be less than 100. If it is greater than 100, it will not be selected first. So what they have said here, that we have to create an traffic. So deny all ICMP traffic. So we have to select. So I can say like and deny. custom. We're just searching for an ICMP. Yeah, ICMP for all ICMP traffic with slash 32 we have to do, and we have to select as deny. So whenever we will do this, we have to check whether it is been still allowing. So what I will do, I will keep my pinging. So just allow me to share a display. So what I will do, I will keep on this activity pinging so that we can able to check whether it is get blocked or whether it has been still accessing. So I will just keep this going on, and I will add this particular deny rule. So I will just now say that save changes, and same and outbound rule. I will say like, let's check it out. It has been both modify your traffic for both inbound and outbound traffic. So check it whether it is pinging is still going on. So whenever I will just refresh for outbound, let's edit outbound rule, add a new rule that is something like an 51 for all ICMP4 traffic slash 32, says deny, save changes. Let's we check. You can see that how it has been applicable. So now if you say as a refresh, so let's we have to check now how it has been. So in this way, we can create the traffic and, yeah, configure the inbound and outbound rules which should be get applied to deny all ICMP traffic, and we can check that it is been denying and perform this activity. So that's, we can say, the completion of this particular event. So where we have check, and then we have to answer some of the questions. So I will keep this activity to you, that to answer the questions of this particular questions, sorry, answer the questions of this MCQs which are given in the labs. Okay, so thank you very much. So I hope you can able to complete the activity properly and do the task. Thank you very much.